Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good day, and thank you for joining today's session. So today we will discuss about Ansible and not Ansible, like how to use Ansible with Terraform, like to automate the configuration, automate this some other installation of the packages, all those things. Before we go to the details, this session will be recorded, and I will make sure you can access the link. You can access the video at any time using the same link, or you can just see the video in the channel, YouTube channel. So one more thing, whatever I am discussing, whatever I am sharing on the screen, all the items will be shared. Maybe I will share via the video description after this session, maybe by end of this session, and you can access it anytime, like the Terraform code, Ansible playbooks. This maybe I can also share the slide packs if needed. Last time someone was asking for the slide pack, and yeah. Hope I'm audible. All good. Okay. Let me share the screen and the slides first. Okay. So for this, why we choose this topic, because there was many requests from many groups, LinkedIn, and in our discussion groups. Yeah, some forums. I found actually this is a simple topic, but some still are struggling to start this integration with Ansible and Terraform. So I thought, okay, we can do some live session and explain how to do this. So we are going to do a quick demo also, demonstration as well. So to explain how we are calling this Ansible playbook or Ansible jobs from Terraform. You integrate with the Terraform, so you can use this locally, or you can use it inside the machine. So we will see how. Sorry. So for the agenda, we will discuss about like what is Ansible and what is Terraform. We are not going to go in deep, like we are not going to explain how and how Terraform or Ansible is working. And we will discuss about the infrastructure management, like IAC, and we will plan, okay, what currently we are doing, the CMO and the FMO. And also we will discuss about the Terraform provisioners as a starter. Then we will see how we can use Ansible as a Terraform provisioner. And we will see it in action, like how we can use these, how we can code it. Yeah, all those things. And of course, we will have the discussion, Q&A, all those things. If you have any question, ask in the chat box anytime. I will try my best to reply. And I think you have other people, they will also help you on these questions. If I have any, if you feel like any audio issues, please let me know via the chat box. I hope it's good. Okay. So let's start with the theoretical parts. I don't have much slides. I have some less than 10 slides to explain how it's working. So for the Ansible, we know Ansible is an open source automation tool with a simple automation language. It's a YAML that can perfectly describe IT application environment in Ansible playbooks. So you can develop Ansible playbooks for configuring the system, installing some packages, configuring the applications, deploying your network device. Can be anything. So Ansible is the automation part. Okay. Now what is Terraform? So Terraform is an infrastructure as code tool, or IAC we can call, and that allows you to build, change, and version the infrastructure safely and efficiently. Means we will discuss about the current mode of operation and the future mode. So Terraform will help you to automate your infrastructure provisioning and also the management, instead of going to the console, doing this by hands, like changing the configuration, adding new disk, or adding new virtual private cloud like PVC or subnet. Everything you can do using Terraform. So I found people are asking, like, what is the difference between Ansible and Terraform, or what is a kind of a comparison? If you ask me, yeah, you can compare, because some of the tasks Ansible is doing is possible using Terraform, and some of the tasks Terraform is doing also possible using Ansible, but it's not really mutually replaceable. So instead of this Terraform versus Ansible, I will say you use Terraform plus Ansible. So that's a great combination. So it's not mutually replaceable 100%. So you cannot use Ansible for the Terraform job. You can do something like that, but it's not fully possible. I mean, yeah, maybe you can make it possible, but it's very difficult. And the same part, whatever Ansible is doing, Terraform can do a bit, but not all. So it's not, you cannot, it's like you can compare, but it's not a good way to, I mean, good to compare. Instead, you try to make it a combination and use it. So whatever Terraform can do good, okay, use Terraform. So whatever Ansible can do, use Ansible. Okay. So the current mode of operation for the infrastructure, okay, I think I don't need to explain a bit, but it's manual, everything manual. So what you are doing is very simple, like you get the details about the cluster. Let's say if you are in AWS uh, or GCP or Azure, or maybe your VMware private cloud, whatever it is. So you get the details about the cluster, region, the network, storage, etc. Then you create the VPC maybe. Then let's say if you are a GCP, you create the projects. Then you create the security groups, network policies, network access control list. Yeah, many things. Then you have to create the actual servers, virtual machines, or EC2 instance, whatever you call droplet in DigitalOcean. So you have to create everything manual. Then you have to configure these servers with additional disk, maybe if you want the data disk or database disk. Then you have to install the packages like the OS packages. We call the base packages for kind of a monitoring package, all those performance monitoring, security monitoring, all those packages. Then you have to install the application, everything manual, create the basic users groups, everything you have to do by hands, like log into the console, or maybe you are using the API. What if you have some changes? Let's say you want to change some IP, or say change some application version, something inside. Then you have to log into the cloud console, modify the configuration. Yeah, you have to do. There is no record like yeah, you can find the logs in the cloud and see, okay, who did what from the configure. And in the system, yes, it's possible, but it's not really traceable. Okay, actually, it can be the user one or user two. We don't know who did and when and why. And if you want to change something inside the servers, again, you have to log into the operating system, modify the configuration, which also like not really traceable. So why we introduced, I mean, this kind of infrastructure automation tool like Terraform, or we have other tools also. Um, Whatever we are doing manually, we try our best to convert to automated way. So the future mode of operation, or we call FMO, is like everything automated. It's like not everything, I will say, whatever the supported modules or whatever the resources. Let's say if the Terraform can do this operation, or some specific operation, some getting some resources, if there is a support, yes, it's possible. Of course, we know the community is growing, that kind of rapid growth. Of course, there will be more and more supported modules, supported resource type will be added to the collection. So in the FMO, whatever we are doing or manual way, we will try to implement using the IAC tools. So in our case, okay, this is the theoretical part. We develop our infrastructure code. So whatever we want to create, we will put everything inside a code. That will be the infrastructure as code. We call IAC. Then we deploy this inside the dev staging, or whatever you call the name, environment. Then we test it, and make sure it's working. Something goes wrong, okay, destroy, create again, because you are not going to log into the console and creating these machines. Instead, the tool will help you to create this infrastructure. So you just tell the code, okay, I need to create this VM with this name, or I need to create this VM with this operating system, or you call the AWS AMI or GCP, the OS version, and Terraform will do it. Okay, if it's not working, try again. So you have a kind of a flexibility to test it in the different environment and make sure it's working perfectly before you deploy to your production environment. Good. Then let's say you have to set up the DR or disaster recovery setup. So I have 10 web servers, one load balancer server, one web application server, something like a small infrastructure setup. This architecture, I can put everything inside a infrastructure as code, like a Terraform code, and deploy. So what is a good thing? Let's say I want to deploy a DR setup. I just need to change some parameters. Okay, now it's in Singapore. I want to deploy everything in US or some other nearby location as per company policy. I don't need to create everything by manual because I have the code which will help me to deploy the same replica of this production setup in a DR location, because everything coded. And you can even manage, like you don't need to keep like a call standby or like that. Usually the disaster recovery, the DR location will have these machines or the servers all installed or configured, but all sleeping, kind of we call standby. So whenever there is an issue, we will do the DR. In our case, we don't need to do that because the infrastructure as code will help you to create this DR replica whenever needed, kind of on demand. And if there is a change, like earlier we told, okay, something need to modify, you have to go to the server or console and change it, like your AWS console or GCP console. But in our case, we just change inside our infrastructure code, test it, make sure it's working, then apply to the production or DR. Simple, right? Okay. So what we are going to do, we will learn how to use this kind of provisioning, and there are two steps in infrastructure as code. The first thing is like we have a provider. So provider, we are not going to cover provider. Provider is nothing like the cloud providers. You can have AWS, DigitalOcean, VMware, GCP, whatever. All that's are provider. So providers are the actual cloud thing. So you have to create the VM, you have to create the VPC, subnet. All those will be handled via the provider. Okay. So here we are talking about provisioner. So provisioners can be used to model the specific action. So this I just copy from the Terraform website, so no need to worry. So this is not my definition. So can be used to model specific actions on the local machine or on a remote machine in order to prepare the servers, the virtual machines, or other infrastructure objects for service. Okay, so what we will do, we have to create the resource, cloud resource. Then we have to configure that resource. So in our case, you can see this sample snippet here. So it's creating some AWS instance. Then the name is web. Okay, leave it. Other part just ignore. Then we have the provisioner block where we mention local execution. So this local execution means this will happen in the same machine where you execute the Terraform apply. So it will not happen on the remote machine. Okay, remember that. We will learn the remote execute very soon. And the command is very simple. Echo, the server's IP address is something self.private IP. Okay, this all Terraform thing. Hope you have idea on this Terraform. Otherwise, please ask in the chat box. We are not going to explain the Terraform in detail here. So we have this local execution. So once you provision the resource, you can use a provisioner to configure the resource. That's it. Okay, no need to confuse. We will explain a bit more. We have by default, whatever you give the provisioner, it will be executed when you create the instance, create the resource. So when you create a virtual machine, you can give, okay, provisioner, do this, configure this, or something like that. But there are some cases you want to do, before you delete the VM, you want to do some, maybe the backup or something you have to do. That kind of provisioner we call destroy term provisioner. So you want to back up some configuration from the VM and put it somewhere before you destroy. You can automate this. You don't need to manually go and back up this. It's possible. So this kind of thing is possible using an option in Terraform called when. So you put when destroy means it will be executed when the resource destroy. Okay. And one more thing before we go to the Ansible part, we have two options. Let's say you put some, you ask some commands to execute, which fails. So maybe the command is wrong, maybe the actual argument passed are wrong, or maybe the Ansible playbook you passed, it failed. So what will happen? So by default, it will, if fail, any of the provisional fail, your entire job will be fail. I mean, the Terraform will show error, okay, unable to execute this provisioner part, a local execute or remote execute, and it will throw an error. Okay, so if you want to, let's say, continue, let's say there is an error, still it's okay, you can do it manually, or it doesn't matter. So you can put an option called continue. So on failure, if you put on failure continue, then even there is an error in the provisioner part, it will be executed. Okay, not a big deal, but still it's useful. Let's say you have some Ansible playbook or some provisioner, it's failing because of something, still you want to provision the infrastructure, but you can check it later like that. Good. Okay, let me check the questions. Okay, why local execution is required here? There are many cases you use local execution. Okay, example. Okay, you want to collect the IP address or the public IP address, the disk details or something. Maybe you want to build an Ansible inventory. Can be anything. So this task you can do as part of local execution. Maybe you want to send an email. Once it's provisioned, you want to send an email. So you can, in the command, you can put, okay, mail to some email address by some subject. Okay, this is created. Can be anything. Or maybe you want to log to your system log, or you want to log to your Elastic, or it can be anything. That's why we have a local exec here. Okay. By default, local execute, you don't need any connection setup, because local is executing on the same machine you are already there. I mean the workstation where you execute the Terraform apply. Hope that's clear. Otherwise, let me know. Okay. Let's say we have to provision something, provisioner. We have to use the provisioner and copy some file. So there are few methods. One is a file. One is I will show you. One is inline, script. All those things are there. This is a remote execute part. So for the provisioner type file, we use this provisional file for copying some configuration or from file to the target machine. So I create a new instance, then I want to copy some configuration file, maybe my HTTP config or Apache config or your application Tomcat configuration, can be anything. So what you can do this, but still you need some connection details for Terraform to connect to the machine and do this. So you can give this connection block here and tell Terraform, okay, I need to use SSH. So there are a few connection options here, SSH, winrm, all those things. Then the username, root or EC2 user, whatever your machine, I mean, whatever the default user you have already on the target machine. We know when you create Ansible, when you create the EC2 instance, there will be a default user called EC2-user. So you can use that. If it's GCP, of course, it will be based on your SSH key. So you can pass this SSH key information in the connection. I will show that. Or you can use the password. Then you tell, okay, which host, the host details you want to connect. Even we are putting inside a specific one, still we have to pass this host information. It can be your public IP or private IP or some specific Elastic IP. You have to put it here. Okay, so this is a file provisioner, just to copy file. So why we use file provisioner, I will tell you. Let's say I want to execute some Ansible playbook inside the virtual machine, inside the EC2 instance. Then I need to copy the playbook first, right? So I copy the playbook using the file provisioner, then I execute from there. Good. Okay. If you have if you want to know more, so of course you can refer this resource here, Terraform docs language resources provisioners and connection.html. I will share the links via the video description later. Okay. And next part is remote execute. So the local execution we know already. It's for managing this local actions. So remote executions are for executing on the target machines. So let's say you have a you are to execute some puppet apply, or you want to add some joining console join, or your AD joining, can be anything. It's just a simple commands like our uh, shell scripts or your PowerShell scripts. So if the machine is Windows, of course you can use the PowerShell commands here. Okay, so there are three methods. One is inline, means the default command. Then you can pass the script where you call some script and execute it on the target machine. Can be shell script or your PowerShell. Then scripts is something we are going to discuss very soon. Okay, again, details are there on the resource page. You can refer that. Then this is the main point. So let's see how we can use Ansible as a provisioner with Terraform. Okay, I'm not sure the intro was very long. Hopefully not. I was trying to explain how, why, and now we will talk about Ansible with Terraform. So calling an Ansible playbook inside an EC2 instance is very simple. So you know what are the options. So I use inline. So you call provisioner, then the type is remote execution. Then inline are I call the some sleep quantity is, I will show you why, because maybe I have some tasks which I need to wait some few seconds. Then I execute Ansible playbook, then command. So this engine.config should be there on the target machine. That's the difference between local execute and remote. Let's say if you have an Ansible running on your same workstation, for example, I am using Linux machine or I am using a Mac machine, I can use the same thing using local execute, where the execution will happen on the local machine, but Ansible will play on my local machine and do everything on the target machine, which will be slower compared to the local compared to the remote execution, because every time it will be running from your local machine and connecting to the cloud instance. So up to you, you can decide. Then remote execution, we have some connection information. So we put like a type equal to EC2, sorry, SSH, then user equal to EC2 user. Then you give the private key. Why? Earlier we used password. Here we use private key because I have this private key configured for the AWS. I will show you how. And I put, okay, self-taught public IP. I want to connect to the instance using the public IP of that EC2 instance. Okay, and this is a very basic thing. And let me check any questions. Okay, what is the difference between provisioner and provider? Provider is the actual cloud thing, or cloud, or the maybe it can be your VMware, it can be your GCP, it can be your AWS cloud. So that's a place you have this plugin or module, whatever you call providers. You use that for provisioning, or kind of I don't call it a provisioning, providing the resource or creating the infrastructure resource like servers, VPC, subnet, all those things. So that's a provider part. So use the Terraform for creating the infrastructure, like the server, all those things, and use provisioner for configuring them. That's a simple thing. I can show something very soon. I hope it's clear for Jamshed. Then Mahesh, provisioners are not considered secure. So what is recommended best practice way to pass script in production? Okay, provisioners are still, yes, still like it's not really highly recommended, but still you can use it safely, like using the private key, like in the screen you can see. Still you are not using username password. Still you are using the user and the SSH key pair. The same key pair we are going to use later when you want to connect manually. Okay. Can we use Ansible Tower with the Terraform? You can use that, but that's like Ansible called the Terraform, not this way. You can use that, it's possible. Here we are trying to use Ansible, like, okay, there are cases where people use Ansible Tower. Instead of calling the Ansible playbook, you can use Ansible API, like a Tower API, and execute the job like a job template. That's possible using API, but you have to pass this connection information, not SSH. Instead, you have to call the secret, all those things. It's possible. Yeah, there are two both ways actually. You can use Ansible to trigger the Terraform provisioning and do the job. That's a different part. This is more internal, like Terraform to provide or create infrastructure, and Ansible to configure the actual operating system or the network, whatever it is. Okay. Where is the Ansible installed? Okay, in our case, for the remote, Ansible will be installed on the target machine. So if you have a Windows, of course it won't work because you cannot install Ansible on Windows. In our case, we are using a Linux machine, so I want to install Ansible automatically. It will be installed automatically. You don't need to tell Terraform that I need to install Ansible, because you need Ansible available on the target machine, right? So when there is a remote execute option, Terraform will provision the Ansible and it will install Ansible on the target machine. Then it will use that Ansible to execute the playbook. So this case, you can still use the local execution if you have a machine. If your machine is using, Linux, like if you have a Linux machine or Mac machine, sorry, it's possible, still possible. But if you are on Windows, of course, you cannot install Windows in Ansible on the Windows. Then you have to. The only option is remote execute. I keep my this kind of work common for Windows and Linux, because sometimes I work on Windows, sometimes I work on Mac. So I use remote execute because I don't need to change the code every time. So I just execute it. So everything will happen on the target machine. It's safe. For the production, you have to consider the best case, because only you know where you are executing, because some really connect to the servers using their workstation, but some really go through the gem server, all those things. Of course, you will have a Linux or an Ansible. Okay. Now we will go through some more in detail. Okay. So we will explore something with a demonstration. So if you want to try, this code is open. You can publicly accessible this repository. I will give you the link. And the one we are trying here is Terraform AWS Ansible Lab. This is very simple. So I need to test Ansible. I have to develop some code. So every time I have to create this Ansible engine, then I have to create some nodes for testing. This is like and I don't want to keep it every time. Maybe I need this lab or my working setup every time whenever I want in the same setup, by setting up, installing the Ansible, configuring these SSH keys, everything. You have to do a lot of steps to create this Ansible lab. This is just a lab where I have Ansible plus 2 other machines. So I use this Terraform code, and I use Ansible itself to configure some of the nodes with this SSH key copy, all those things. You can refer this repository in GitHub. I will share the link later, or you can take it from the screenshot, it's fine. So we will see that code first. And okay. Here is the code. Maybe I can explain first before we go. Hope this is visible. Okay, so we have Terraform code here. So we have Ansible nodes. I create 2 nodes here, which is just like the 2 EC2 instances. Then I have Ansible engine here. So here we have this actual provisioner part. So let me explain here. So we are creating an AWS instance called Ansible engine. Then I mentioned the AWS AMI ID. So all these variables I have put inside my variable files. If you want, you can see here. I had this variable file where I kept my AMI details, my SSH key pair. So I'm using my primary SSH key ID RSA, and I have this public key information and node count. So I put default node 2 nodes. So 2 nodes will be deployed like that. Okay, and This is the engine configuration. So all this you can ignore because this is a simple Terraform thing. Then this is a provision part. So we have multiple examples here. The first one is remote execution, and I use inline option. Okay, inline I told this like pure commands, like you can execute like echo commands, you can you like yum install, sudo yum install, whatever the things you can, whatever you can do on the shell, you have to you can do here in the inline. So I have a bunch of commands where you can see I am adding a lot of details, I mean information inside a file called inventory. It's like I am echo, then I pass this information. Again, I'm echoing some information. Actually, I'm building the default inventory because you know the private IP, public IP, everything will be changed every time. So I cannot hard code it. So I did something tricky way. It's not tricky, it's a known thing. So I'm creating the inventory using the the Terraform facts, like Terraform data details. That's it. So I'm just echoing the details and putting into a file called home ec2 inventory. Then I'm adding some more details inside ansible.cfc. You can see here I'm adding few details inside ansible.cfc. Everything will be inside the ec2 instance. Okay. Now, what we will do, we will execute this first and we will explain because that one will take some time. We will check here first. Nothing here. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to Terraform apply, then we will wait for some time. It will. Okay, so let me give yes, and during the creation we will explain. Okay, I give yes. Good. Now we will explain here. Okay, you have a provisioner called remote execution and you use inline, and you are just doing some echo and creating some files. Okay, that's it. Then you put the connection method. Okay, I have to use this SSH method, then username and the private key. The private key file already there, so you know it's a /ssh id rsa. It's fine. Then you connect using the public IP. So the self object is here, so you can use the self.public IP, which will be the public IP of this instance. Good. Now we have another provisioner called file, where I am copying the engine config.yaml. This is my playbook. If you check the playbook, we have a playbook here. Inside, I have some tasks to set the host name, create some .sh directory, create a inventory file, copy the inventory, then create etc host, then generate the SSH key, copy the SSH key to the other nodes, because you know for Ansible you have to pass this SSH key to the target nodes to make it like passwordless login. So this is I told this is my lab, so I just create this lab whenever I need it. So I just need to execute one command, Terraform apply, then I have a lab. That's it. Then I create this key copying. Then I also disable the password authentication because I don't want to use the password-based authentication. I use the SSH key-based authentication. Restart SSH. So everything, whatever the task I need to do on the target machine or machines, I use Ansible, and I run this from the Ansible engine node. So I pass this YAML file or the playbook file using the file provisioner. Now I will call this Ansible playbook because the playbook is already on the target machine. I can execute it. Okay. Then I will execute it because you already saw this provisioner part in the slide. So we are just calling the Ansible playbook, and I know this playbook I already copied here, ec2 user home directory engine config.yaml. Calling it. That's it. So this is actually it's very simple. So here the thing is you have to consider, like you want to use the remote execute or the local execution, because if you don't have an Ansible running on the host machine or the workstation, you cannot use the local execution for the Ansible playbook. Okay, in that case I use remote execute. So why I use remote execute in my case in this demo, Let's say I want to use this Ansible lab from Windows. So I have a Windows workstation and I want to create it. So when I execute this and Terraform apply, everything will happen on the target machine because that Ansible will be installed on the remote Ansible engine. I can use it. So I don't need to worry about the Ansible installation on my Windows workstation. Okay. Now it's still creating, and it will take some time, but we'll see how. Let me check if any question. Okay, now we can see Ansible playbook is executing. So still it's under Terraform. So Terraform is executing the Ansible playbook. You can see all success, and I have some output to. I already create some code here to show the output of my instances. So I'm going to SSH EC2 user at the rate. It will not ask me for the pass. It will not ask for any key thing because I already inform. Okay, Ansible to use the proper key on my machine. So I am on my Ansible engine in AWS. We will test it here. Okay, so we have 3 machines created, renamed, everything inside, and we will check what else happened inside. So if I check, okay, maybe I can clear this one. Okay, hope it's visible to you. So I'm inside my Ansible engine. It's a lab. Then I check what else I have done using Ansible. So I have added some entries in etc host where I put, okay, this is my private IP for Ansible engine. So I don't need to remember the long name or the private IP of my Ansible nodes or Ansible engine. So everything I put inside my etc host using Ansible. Okay. And then I have my SSH node one. Oh, sorry, maybe I have created a user called DevOps that also I use Ansible. Sudo sgmins DevOps. Good. I have this user. Oops. Okay. Now I have to log into the node one. So I don't need to remember the IP. So I use node one. Good. Because it's not asking for the password because I already created a SSH key and I deploy the authorized key or public key to the target node 1 and node 2. So this is my Ansible I've already ready to use. Also, every time I need this inventory information. So there are 2 files I created using Ansible again. Cat ansible.cfg. I just put some information. Then we have inventory creator, also good. Now we can directly try Ansible all -m ping. That's it. See, I didn't configure anything on my lab. So I just do Terraform apply. My Ansible lab is ready. So I can just use my lab like, yeah, this is not just for the lab information. You can use this thing for anything. I mean, this code plus the configuration management for anything. So you use the Terraform provider for creating the infrastructure and provisioner like Ansible for configuring the machines. So here we configure the Ansible engine and also 2 nodes. So if I want to test something, okay, Ansible nodes, I want to use a shell, okay, maybe M module. I want to install some package. So I put name equal to httpd, it equal to latest -b. So nothing, you can just execute it because everything is set up by Terraform plus Ansible thing. So I can just execute it because my lab is kind of immutable. So anytime I can destroy and recreate the lab. So I just need to wait. Maybe you can try like HTTP. Maybe it's not visible for you. HTTP node 1. Sorry, node 1 is not connected. Okay, I have to enable the port. Sorry, I don't have I didn't execute the playbook. It's fine. So if you check, this is already executed. So let's say I want to remove it. I can just put state equal to absent. So I can test any playbook now. So if I have a repository, let's say I want to test something. Okay, it's already executed. So if I want to test something like I keep everything in my repository, so I can simply um, use it. So I will show how. So I keep my code in private or public repository. Put git clone. Okay, so I have this repository here. My code is here. My lab is here. I can test anything here. Good or what? So this is a simple thing. So you just try to create the resource using Terraform. Then you configure this resource using Ansible. That's it. So that's why I wrote. And don't compare like which is good. Can we use Terraform for this like that? No. Try to use it like a combination. So which will help you to provide the infrastructure and provision like configure the infrastructure like that. And that's it for the demonstration. If you have any questions or clarification needed, let me know. I can try my best to answer if I know that. And this is our kind of 30 days and 30 days of Ansible challenge. We have all, I think, most of the items here. Let's say if you are very new to the Ansible, you can use this anytime. And we have this YouTube video series if you want to learn Ansible from scratch. Then what else? I think that's it. So just try yourself. You can refer this repository for testing. We have other courses, but just focus on this Ansible Terraform plus Ansible lab creation. You have all the items here. Okay. Any questions I missed? I believe I have answered. If no other questions, I think we can. Yeah, I think I don't see any questions here. It's good. So check the repository. I will share the slide pack under the video description, and you can refer it. And if you think the videos are good, please feedback, and we will try to arrange other sessions like for anything related to Ansible, this Kubernetes thing, Terraform, OpenShift, whatever it is, whatever is possible for our team. You can find these links here. I will share the slides again. If possible, just scan the QR code and you just fill out. You don't need to fill out your personal details. Just fill out the detail like how was the session, and also you suggest the topics for the next sessions. It will be helpful. Okay, and I think that's all for today's sessions. Thank you again for joining. Hope I think I shared something good, and yeah, if you think it's good, just see the other videos, and you can just if you think the channel is good, if the videos are useful, just subscribe to the channel. You will get more and more videos. Like these videos, and I think we can end the session if no other questions. Thank you, good session. Thank you for that. Glad to hear that. I think we will wait for a few minutes for questions. If no questions, we can end the session. Thank you again for joining. See you next time with another session very soon. And yeah, submit the topic. Thank you.